In the quiet, forgotten village of Obiegu, where goats walked freely and red earth kissed the feet of every child, there lived a girl named Usuzoko. She was 21 but looked older, not because of time, but because of pain. Since her mother died, Usuzoko had been living with her uncle, Papa Ibuka, who treated her like a stranger in her own bloodline. She cooked, washed, fetched water from the stream, weeded the cassava farm, and still got beaten when the beans was not soft enough. His wife, Auntie Oluchi, was even worse. "Usuzoko, are you still sleeping by this time?" she would shout as early as 4 a.m. There was never rest. There was never peace. But what Usuzoko had was beauty. Not the loud kind. She had quiet beauty, deep brown eyes, dark glowing skin, and a voice soft like river breeze. Men admired her from afar, but nobody came close. Nobody wanted to marry a girl with no dowry, no mother, and no voice in her family. One evening, as the sun was setting and children chased each other in the dusty square, Papa Ibuka sat outside under the mango tree with a strange man. His name was Obidike. He looked poor, his shirt was faded, slippers broken, and his eyes tired. He was said to be a bicycle repairer who just moved into the village. Usuzoko was inside pounding yam when Auntie Oluchi called her. "Oya, come and kneel down and greet your husband." She paused, confused. "Mo." Papa Ibuka stood up. "You heard your auntie. This man, Obidike, is your husband now. He asked for you." Tears gathered in Uzuzoko's eyes. "Uncle, please. I don't even know him." "You don't need to know him. He agreed to help me fix my bicycle for free. That's more than you've ever done. You're a burden in this house, so you better carry your bag and follow him." Just like that. No prayers. No bride price. No dignity. Obidike stood there, silent, watching her. His eyes were calm. He didn't say a word. Usuzoko fell on her knees. "Please, uncle, let me at least finish market school. Please." He raised his hand to slap her. "You'll finish in his house. Get out of here." Nobody in the compound said anything. Her cousins looked away. The neighbors whispered but did nothing. With trembling hands, she packed her things into a black nylon bag, 2 wrappers, 1 old Bible, and a bar of soap. She looked at her small mat in the corner one last time and stepped outside. Obidike didn't smile. He didn't touch her. He just walked ahead, and she followed behind with tears dropping like rain from her face. The villagers watched. Some even laughed. "So this is how Usuzoko finally got a husband," they whispered. But no one knew that the man in the torn shirt had a secret, one that would shake the entire village. The walk from Obiegu to the next village, Yumuk, was long and quiet. Usuzoko didn't speak. Her feet hurt. Her heart hurt more. Obidike didn't look back. He just walked ahead slowly, his hands in his pockets, his face calm like someone who had no problem in this world. When they finally got to Yumuk, he led her through a small bush path behind a primary school, past a riverbank, and into a compound built with red bricks. It wasn't big, but it was clean. "This is where I live," he said softly, opening a wooden door with a tiny padlock. The room smelled of soap and kerosene. There was a mattress on the floor, a wooden chair by the window, and a small cooking pot on a charcoal stove. On the wall was a calendar from 2018 and a hand-painted quote, "God sees all things." Usuzoko stood by the door, clutching her bag tightly. "You can sit," he said, pointing at the chair. She didn't move. "I'm sorry about the way they gave you away," he continued. "I didn't ask for it like that." She finally looked up, confused. "Then why did you agree?" He paused. "Because I saw something in you. Even when you were carrying firewood that day and Auntie Oluchi shouted at you, you still said yes more with respect." Silence. "I knew you had a good heart." Usuzoko sat down slowly. For the first time since morning, she breathed deeply. The room was small, but it felt like a place of peace. He didn't touch her. He didn't ask her to cook. He just gave her space. That night, she slept on the bed. He slept on the floor, near the door. In the morning, Usuzoko woke up to the smell of fried plantain. She opened her eyes and blinked. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she saw Obidike, standing in the tiny kitchen corner, turning plantains in a frying pan. He looked up and smiled. "You're awake. Come and eat." She sat up slowly. "I should be the one cooking." "You're not my servant," he said calmly. "Rest today." They ate together in silence. Just as she stood up to wash the plates, there was a knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Obidike opened it. Outside stood a small boy with dusty legs. "Uncle Obidike. That woman has come again. She said she's looking for you." Obidike sighed. "Tell her I'll come soon." Usuzoko watched as he stepped outside quickly. Her heart was racing. Which woman? Was it his real wife? Was she about to be thrown out again? She stood by the window, peeking through the old curtain. Outside, behind the trees, she saw him talking to a fat woman in a long blue gown. They were whispering. The woman was pointing at him with anger. When he came back in, his face had changed. It was serious now. "Who was that?" Usuzoko asked quietly. He shook his head. "Nobody you need to worry about." She frowned. "I want to know." He paused, then looked at her with soft eyes. "One day, I'll tell you everything. For now, please just trust me." Her heart was still full of questions. But she nodded. "Okay." As she picked up the plates to wash, she noticed something under the bed, a shiny envelope with a golden seal. She bent to pick it, but quickly heard his voice. "Please don't touch that." She froze. The calm in his voice was gone. "Okay," she said quickly, dropping it. He took it from the floor and placed it inside a box under his pillow. As he locked the box, she looked at him differently now. Who exactly was this man? Usuzoko couldn't stop thinking about the golden envelope. That night, as Obidike slept soundly on the floor, she sat on the bed with her knees folded to her chest, staring at the small box where he had kept it. Her eyes were wide open, her thoughts noisy. Who was that woman? What was inside the envelope? Why did his mood change so fast? She wasn't trying to be rude or curious for fun, but something inside her felt uneasy. He had been kind, yes. But kind people didn't usually hide things under their pillow with a lock. The next morning, she decided to push her mind away from it. She picked up the broom, swept the room, fetched water from the nearby stream, and boiled rice with palm oil and scent leaves. It was a simple meal, but the aroma filled the small house like magic. When Obidike returned from the back of the compound, his eyes lit up. "You cooked?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "I wanted to thank you for being kind." They sat and ate together in peace. But as soon as they finished, a knock came at the door again. This time, it wasn't the barefoot village boy. It was a tall, bald man in a white native outfit with black embroidery. His hands were behind his back and his face was serious. "Obidike," he said, "you've been dodging my calls." Usuzoko froze where she was, holding the wash plate in her hand. "I told you I needed more time," Obidike replied, stepping outside and closing the door behind him. But Usuzoko could still hear voices through the cracks in the mud wall. "You think hiding in this bush village will save you? Your father's people are watching. You're playing with fire. I'm not ready to go back. I need more time. Time is up. The lawyer is coming next week. Whether you like it or not, you take over." "Take over what?" Usuzoko thought, confused. After a while, the man left. Obidike returned, his face pale. "I'm going to the market," he said quietly, picking up his small wallet. "Should I follow you?" she asked. "No. Stay here. Lock the door." When he left, Usuzoko sat down, heart beating fast. She didn't want to spy. But something told her the envelope held the answer. She knelt beside the bed and gently pulled the box from under the pillow. She didn't open the lock. She just looked at it. Then, as if by chance, the lock clicked open. It wasn't properly sealed. She opened the lid, and there it was. The golden envelope. She picked it up slowly and turned it in her hands. Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal. Inside, she found the bank letter. Account holder, Obidike Ezenochikwa. Current balance, 2.8 billion Nigerian nairas. She gasped. Her hands shook. She dropped the letter and stepped back like the paper was fire. No. This can't be true. She looked around the small room, the mattress on the floor, the leaking roof, the torn curtain. All this time, she thought she was married to a poor bicycle repairer. So why was he pretending? She quickly placed everything back the way she found it. Just as she locked the box, she heard his footsteps. He was back. She sat on the bed and picked up the Bible, pretending to read. He opened the door slowly and looked at her. But in that moment, their eyes met differently. It was no longer just kindness and peace. Now there was a question, and a secret. That evening, the sky above Yumuk turned grey. Clouds gathered like gossipers ready to pour out all the secrets of the village. Usuzoko didn't say a word. Neither did Obidike. They sat in silence for hours, she on the bed, he by the door, sharpening a small knife on a stone. The air between them was no longer peaceful. It was full of something else, uncertainty. When it got dark, she lit the kerosene lamp. The room glowed dimly. "Are you okay?" he asked, looking up from the floor. She nodded too quickly. "Yes." He looked at her a bit longer, then sighed. "You look like someone with questions." She turned her eyes away. "I don't want to ask what I'm not supposed to know." There was a pause. The rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavier. Obidike stood up and walked to the small window. "I didn't lie to you, Usuzoko. I never said I was poor. I just didn't say anything." "Then why live like this?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Why sleep on the floor? Why let me suffer with you if you had all that money?" He turned slowly to face her. "Because money has caused me too much pain. I left everything behind for peace." She looked confused. He sat beside the wall, his eyes far away. "My father was a billionaire. He owned lands, banks, hotels. But he died suddenly. My uncles wanted everything. They forged papers, tried to kill me." Usuzoko gasped. "They told me to sign over my inheritance or they'd make me disappear like they made my elder brother disappear. So I ran. Ran, here." He nodded. "Yumuk is quiet. Nobody knew me here. I started fixing bicycles, saved money slowly, and planned to one day fight back." She stared at him, her heart softening again. "So, all this while, you've been hiding?" "Yes. And then I saw you." He turned to her, eyes gentle. "You reminded me of myself. Quiet. Hurt. Looking for peace." Silence filled the room again. The rain beat harder outside. "You should have told me," she whispered. "I didn't know if you'd stay." She bit her lip and stood up. "I stayed because you were kind. Not because of money. But now that I know, I feel like a stranger again." He stood slowly. "You're not a stranger, Usuzoko. You're the only person I trust." Just then, a loud knock came at the door. Bang! Bang! They both froze. Another knock. Louder, then a voice shouted, "Open this door now or we'll break it." Usuzoko grabbed his arm in fear. "Who is that?" "I don't know," he whispered, pulling her behind him. He reached for the small knife by the stove. More banging. "You think you can hide from us forever? We know who you are, Ezianochikwa." Uzuomoko's heart nearly stopped. That name again. Obidike didn't move. He stood firm like a wall. Then the door burst open. 3 men in dark raincoats entered, their eyes scanning the room. "We warned you. Now you're coming with us." The 3 men stepped fully into the room, their wet boots leaving muddy marks on the floor. One was tall with a scar across his cheek, the second looked like he had slept in anger, and the third held a phone, recording. Obidike didn't blink. He stood between them and Uzumoko like a wall of stone. "We don't want trouble," the scarred man said. "But if you force us, we will drag you out." "You have no right to come into my house," Obidike replied, gripping the knife tightly. "Your house," the one with the phone laughed. "This little hut. Billionaire's palace." Uzuomoko's heart pounded. She moved behind Obidike and whispered, "Let's go with them. Maybe it's safer." But he shook his head. "They're not here for safety. They're here to erase me." The scarred man reached into his coat and brought out a small black pistol. Uzuomoko gasped. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he warned. Obidike slowly dropped the knife. "What do you want?" "The lawyer is in the city. The court is ready. Come and sign the handover papers, or you'll disappear tonight." Obidike raised his hands calmly. "Fine. I'll come. But not now." "You think this is a negotiation?" the angry man snapped. Just then, lightning struck outside, followed by a deafening thunder. The room flickered with white light. In that split second, Obidike grabbed the kerosene lamp and flung it toward the floor. Crash! Flames burst up, thick smoke followed, and the men jumped back. "Run!" he shouted. He grabbed Uzuomoko's hand, and they both dashed through the smoke out the back door. Rain poured on them like buckets from the sky, soaking their clothes instantly. They ran barefoot through the bushes behind the compound, dodging torn trees and slippery roots. Uzuomoko's wrapper almost tore, but she held it tight. Behind them, shouts came, "Catch them! They are escaping!" The night was dark, but the river's path shimmered in the rain. "This way!" Obidike yelled. They reached a small canoe tied to a palm tree by the water. "You know how to paddle," she cried. "Yes. Get in." They both climbed in, the small canoe rocking wildly as thunder rolled again. Obidike pushed off with a long stick, and the canoe drifted into the dark river, the current carrying them fast. On the riverbank, the 3 men arrived seconds later, but it was too late. They watched as the canoe disappeared into the night. In the middle of the river, Uzuomoko sat shivering. "Are we safe now?" she asked. "For now," he answered, paddling hard. "But this changes everything." She looked at him, the man who was supposed to be poor. Now he was a billionaire on the run. A haunted man, with her in his arms. The storm didn't stop till early morning. By then, the canoe had drifted far down the river, into an area Uzuomoko had never seen before. The clouds had cleared slowly, leaving behind a grey sky and muddy trails of water along the bank. Obidike guided the canoe gently to the edge, where tall elephant grass and palm trees stood like silent soldiers. He tied the canoe to a root and helped Uzuomoko step out carefully. Her legs were weak. Her wrapper was soaked. Her lips shivered from cold. "We'll rest here," Obidike said. They walked through the grass for a few minutes until they reached a small hut hidden under a huge mango tree. The roof was made of rusted zinc sheets, and there was a small bench by the entrance. Uzuomoko looked at him, confused. "You've been here before." He nodded. "I built this place years ago, before I left everything." Inside the hut was just one small wooden bed, a black kettle, a folded mat, and a dusty Bible. He lit a small kerosene lamp, and the soft yellow glow made the place look warmer than it was. Usuzoko sat on the bed and removed her wet wrapper. She covered herself with a spare cloth from a box in the corner. Obidike placed firewood near the door and tried to light a small fire to heat water. For a few minutes, there was silence. Just the soft crackling of firewood and the distant sound of frogs singing by the river. "Are you okay?" he asked, looking at her with concern. She nodded slowly. "I'm just tired. Scared." He sat on the mat near her. "I never wanted you to be in this mess," he said. "They don't just want my money. They want me gone." "Why?" she whispered. "My uncle, after my father died, he thought I would be easy to manipulate. When I refused to hand over the company, they started making threats." Usuzoko looked at him with wide eyes. "Wait, so the people chasing us are your own family?" He nodded. "My father's younger brother and his sons. The men you saw were hired by them. They've been looking for me for over a year." She wrapped the cloth tighter around her. "And you didn't tell anyone?" "If I told anyone, they'd betray me." She swallowed hard. "And me? You trust me?" He turned slowly and looked her in the eyes. "Yes." A soft silence followed. Not fear. Not awkwardness. Just quiet understanding. Later that evening, he boiled water and gave her some to bathe. She stepped behind the hut and washed quickly with soap he gave her, using a small bowl. When she came back, he had prepared boiled yam with red oil and onions. They ate slowly, side by side. Usuzoko looked up and said, "You could have run away alone, but you didn't." "I wouldn't leave you behind," he said. "I was just a village girl they threw at you. But you brought me here. You protected me." He smiled softly. "And you followed me even when you didn't understand." She smiled too, for the first time that day. Outside, the crickets sang. The rain had stopped, but a new storm was rising, not outside, but in the world they had run from. Neither of them knew what would come next, but for now, they had shelter. They had each other. And they had a secret no one else could touch. The next few days passed quietly in the forest hut. Obidike went out every morning before sunrise to hunt for food or fetch firewood, while Usuzoko swept the hut, boiled water, washed their clothes by the stream, and cooked whatever he brought back, mostly yam, bush meat, or roasted maize. Each day, they grew closer. She had stopped calling him sir. Now she called him Obi. And he started calling her Yuzo. They would sit outside the hut in the evenings, under the mango tree, talking about childhood, their dreams, their fears, and sometimes, just sitting in silence and watching the birds fly past. But peace doesn't stay forever. One evening, as Usuzoko bent near the fire roasting corn, she heard something, a crack of dry leaves in the bush behind the hut. She froze. Then turned. Nothing. She stood and looked toward the trees. "Obi," she called. He wasn't back yet. Then she saw movement, just a flash, like someone ducking behind a palm tree. "Who's there?" she shouted, fear creeping into her voice. No answer. She picked up a stick and walked slowly around the hut, her heart thumping. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from behind the tree. It was a woman, dark-skinned, tall, and wearing a scarf wrapped tightly over her hair. Her eyes were sharp, like someone who had seen too much of the world. "I don't want trouble," the woman said, her voice low. "I just came to warn you." Usuzoko gripped the stick tightly. "Warn me? Who are you?" "My name is Ifeoma. I used to work in the Izunochikwa household, Obidike's family. I served his stepmother." Uzumoko's eyes narrowed. "So you've been following us?" "No," she replied. "But I knew he would hide here. This hut." He built it with his bare hands after his mother died. It was our favorite place. Usuzoko relaxed the stick a little. Why are you here? Ifeoma stepped closer. Those men who came to capture him, they are not stopping. They've placed a price on his head. 20 million naira for anyone who gives information about his location. Uzumoko's stomach turned. Ifeoma looked around. You're not safe here. They've bribed people in the nearby villages. Hunters, drivers, even the chief of Yumuk is watching for signs of him. What do you want me to do? Usuzoko whispered. Tell him to leave this area. Tonight, if possible. There's a woman in Kolago, her name is Madame Rose. She owes his mother a favor. She can help. Before Usuzoko could speak again, they heard a twig snap nearby. Ifeoma turned sharply. I have to go. Wait. But the woman disappeared into the trees like smoke. Moments later, Obidike arrived, carrying firewood and dry leaves. You look shaken, he said, placing the wood down. She ran to him, holding his arm tightly. Someone was here. What? A woman, Ifeoma. She said she worked for your stepmother. She warned us. They've placed money on your head. Obidike's eyes darkened. 20 million, he muttered. Yes. She said we should go to Nkolago. Tonight. He sat on the bench, thinking. This is no longer a secret. If they reach this hut, they'll burn it down with us inside. Usuzoko looked into his eyes. Then let's leave. I'll follow you anywhere, Obi. Even if we walk in the dark. He stood up and nodded. Okay. We'll go tonight. And just like that, the plan changed again. The storm wasn't over. It was only beginning. Night fell fast over the forest, like a black curtain pulled across the sky. The crickets sang louder. The air turned cold and heavy. Obidike and Usuzoko packed only what they could carry, 2 wrappers, a Bible, dried maize, bottled water, and some matches wrapped in nylon. Obidike tied everything inside an old Ghana must-go bag. They didn't speak much. There was no time. At exactly 9 p.m. they stepped into the bush path behind the hut and disappeared into the night. The path to Nkolago was not a straight one. It wound through forests, hills, and abandoned farmlands. No cars passed, no houses stood. Only moonlight guided them, shining through tall palm leaves like silver fire. Usuzoko held his hand tightly, her feet muddy, her heart thumping like a drum. Obi, she whispered, what if they find us? They won't, he said. But what if? He stopped and looked at her. I'll protect you. Even if it costs me everything. She swallowed hard and nodded. They continued walking. An hour passed. Then 2. Then, as they reached the base of a rocky hill, they heard it, a distant hum. Like motorcycles. Then voices. Angry ones. There. They passed here. Usuzoko froze. Run, Obidike said quietly. They climbed the rocky hill fast, slipping, gasping, pulling each other forward. The flash of torchlights danced behind the trees below. They are coming, she cried. This way, he pointed toward a narrow path that led through thick bamboo. Branches scratched their arms, thorns bit into their feet, but they kept moving. Suddenly, a sharp voice rang out behind them, stop there. If you move, I shoot. They froze. Usuzoko turned slowly. A man stood behind them, tall, holding a long hunting gun. His eyes were wild, lips dry. He wore a torn security uniform, boots without laces. You think you can run? He barked. Where is the billionaire boy? Obidike stepped forward. Let her go. I'll come with you. The man laughed. So it's true. You're the one they want. Then both of you will go. The prize is for you, but the girl's bonus. He raised the gun. Usuzoko closed her eyes. But before the man could shoot, a wooden club struck him from behind, crack. He dropped like a stone. Another figure stood behind him. A woman. Tall. Headscarf. Familiar face. It was Ifeoma. "Hurry," she whispered. "There's no time." She led them through a hidden side trail that curved sharply and connected to an old footbridge made of wood and vines. By dawn, they were at the edge of Nkologo. Exhausted. Dirty. Shaken. A white compound sat on a hill ahead, a white bungalow with red roofing and flowers at the gate. "That's Madame Rose's house," Ifeoma said. "I can't go further. My face is known." Obidike stepped forward and touched her shoulder. "Thank you. You've saved us twice." She nodded once, then vanished back into the trees. Usuzoko stared at the house. "Do you think she'll help us?" Obidike nodded slowly. "She loved my mother. She's our last chance." They walked up to the gate. Usuzoko knocked. A few seconds passed, then the gate creaked open. And a tall woman in a wrapper and blouse stood there, staring at them. Her face was unreadable. She crossed her arms and said, "So, you finally came." Madame Rose stood still at the gate, staring at them without a smile. Her arms were crossed, her face sharp like someone who had seen too much betrayal in life. Obidike bowed his head gently. "Good morning, Auntie Rose." "I'm not your auntie," she replied. Uzumoko's heart skipped. "But you knew my mother," Obidike added softly. "You helped her once. We have no one else to turn to." For a moment, Madame Rose said nothing. Her eyes shifted to Usuzoko, who stood shivering behind him, barefoot and weak. Madame Rose finally sighed and stepped aside. "Enter." They walked slowly into the compound. It was neat, almost too neat, trimmed flowers, well-raked sand, a big water tank, and a long corridor that led into the house. Inside, everything smelled of menthol, bleach, and old memories. "Sit there," she said, pointing to a wooden bench in the corridor. She disappeared into a back room. Usuzoko sat with her hands in her lap. Her legs trembled. Her eyes scanned the house. "Obi," she whispered, "do you trust her?" He nodded. "I have to." Minutes later, Madame Rose returned with a tray, a flask of hot tea, a plate of biscuits, and a towel. She placed it gently before them and said, "Clean up. Drink something. Then we'll talk." After bathing and changing into clean clothes she gave them, they sat quietly at her small dining table. Madame Rose poured tea for herself and looked at Obidike. "You vanished for 2 years. No word. No message. The last time I saw you, your mother was in tears." "I know. I ran," he said, his voice low. "I was scared. They tried to poison me." Madame Rose nodded slowly. "Your uncle?" Obidike nodded back. "And his sons. I saw the signs. They wanted me to sign documents that would give them power over the company. When I refused, they threatened me." "They thought you were weak," she said. He looked up. "Maybe I was." Madame Rose sipped her tea, then turned to Usuzoko. "And you, where did they find you?" Uzumoko's eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. "They gave me away like a gift," she said softly. "I had nothing. No one." Madame Rose stared at her for a long time, then asked, "And yet you followed him into the bush?" Usuzoko nodded. "He gave me peace. Even in hiding." Madame Rose smiled faintly for the first time. "You're braver than you look." She stood up and walked to the shelf. From a black bag, she brought out an envelope and tossed it on the table. Inside that envelope is a contact, a retired judge. He's one of the few people your uncle couldn't bribe. If you want to clear your name and take back your father's company, you need him. Obidike picked up the envelope and opened it. "Thank you," he said. Madame Rose leaned on the wall. "I'm helping you because of your mother. But this path you're about to walk will be full of fire. Are you ready?" He looked at Usuzoko, then at the envelope. "I'm ready." "And you," she turned to the girl. "You can still leave. No one will blame you." Usuzoko shook her head. "I already chose this path the day I stepped out of my uncle's house. I won't run." Madame Rose gave a slow nod. "Then rest today. Tomorrow, we begin." But none of them knew that already in the same town, their enemies had arrived. And someone had already recognized Obidike's face. The next morning, just after sunrise, the air in Madame Rose's house was thick with purpose. Obidike wore a white shirt and clean trousers she had given him. His beard was trimmed. His eyes were sharper now. He no longer looked like a fugitive. He looked like a man rising from ashes. Usuzoko, dressed in a simple Ankara gown, stood by the door watching him lace his shoes. Her heart beat like a talking drum. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" she asked. He stood up and smiled. "I have to be." Madame Rose appeared with a briefcase and a car key. "The retired judge is waiting at the court. Everything is in place. But once we step out of this gate, there's no turning back." They nodded. Outside, the car started. Madame Rose drove while Obidike and Usuzoko sat in the back. No one spoke. The tension was thicker than the early morning fog. By 9:30 a.m. they arrived at the old Nkologo courthouse. The judge was already seated, an elderly man with white hair and piercing eyes. Documents were signed. Statements were given. Evidence of threats, fraud, and missing funds, all submitted. The judge stamped the final page. "This young man," he declared, "is the rightful heir to Chief Izenochikwa's estate and company. Any further threats to his life will be treated as criminal conspiracy." Cheers echoed faintly. But the celebration was short. Outside the courtroom, reporters had gathered, and standing by the black jeep was Chief Nduka, Obidike's uncle. He clapped slowly. So, the boy grew teeth. Behind him, two of the same men from the bush watched quietly. Madame Rose stepped forward. "Back away, Nduka. It's over. You think one dusty court ruling will stop me," he spat. But just then, a siren wailed. Two police trucks pulled in. Officers jumped down, guns in hand. "Nduka Izenochikwa," the lead officer shouted, "you're under arrest for attempted murder, embezzlement, and criminal conspiracy." Chaos broke out. Chief Nduka shouted and resisted. But it was too late. Handcuffs clicked. Usuzoko stood still, shaking as she watched the man who had tried to kill her husband dragged away like a common thief. Obidike turned to her, tears in his eyes. "It's over." She nodded, then burst into tears. He held her close. "You're free now," he whispered. "We both are." Obidike stood at the top floor of his late father's company headquarters in Enugu, wearing a navy blue suit. His face glowed with peace. Below, workers walked in and out of the modern glass building. In the waiting lounge sat Usuzoko, now wearing a sky blue blouse and knit braids. She smiled softly as the secretary offered her juice. He walked over, sat beside her, and held her hand. "Remember when you said I brought you peace?" he asked. "Yes," she replied. "Now it's your turn to receive peace. You deserve it. And you," she smiled, "deserve someone who believed in you when you were still hiding." He knelt slowly. Usuzoko gasped. From his pocket, he brought out a silver ring. "Usuzoko, not because you followed me when I was rich, but because you stood by me when I was poor, will you marry me again?" Tears filled her eyes. She nodded. "Yes, Obidike. 1,000 times, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger. And this time, there was no stepmother. No bicycle. No fear. Only love. And a new beginning. I hope the story was enjoyable to you. If so, do give the video a like. Tell your loved ones and friends about it. Don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories like this one. Goodbye.